will be going over the pelvic and hip ligaments today. We have here our whole pelvic girdle. Now, putting it onto the skeleton, it looks like this. So here, it's right there. I will show some ligaments on this model. So here, in between connecting the pelvic bones, we have this area right here. This area right here is called our pubic symphysis. Now, going above our pubic symphysis, we have right here suprapubic ligament. This is our suprapubic ligament. Underneath our pubic symphysis, this green right here, is our arcuate ligament. Arcuate ligament. Moving on to our anterior sacroiliac ligament. Sacroiliac is attaching to the sacrum and the ilium, and it's on the anterior side. So this is our anterior sacroiliac ligament. Moving to the posterior side here, this is the posterior side of the body. We have our posterior sacroiliac ligament. So this pink here is connecting our sacrum to our iliac up here. So the pink is our posterior sacroiliac ligament. They intertwine here with another ligament. Now, this green ligament here that intertwines with our posterior sacroiliac ligament, this green on the back, this is our sacrotuberous ligament. It attaches to the ischial tuberosity, so it is our sacrotuberous ligament. Then, coming around to the front, now from the anterior view, this orange deep in here, so like this, we're gonna go deep in here. This orange, this is our sacrospinous ligament. It is attaching from our sacrum to this ischial spine. You can also see it a little bit on the posterior view. Sacrospinous ligament. Our next one is our iliolumbar ligament. So it will connect our ilium to our lumbar vertebrae. So this yellow is our iliolumbar ligament. On the anterior side, we have here this orange. That right there is our inguinal ligament. You would have it on both sides. Inguinal ligament. Moving on to this red ligament right here on the anterior side of the body. This is called our anterior longitudinal ligament. Now, our posterior one is in the back over here. We cannot see it on this model, so I will show you on another model. For the posterior longitudinal ligament, we will use this model here. So this is our anterior side, and I will turn it so the posterior is facing us. Now, we have the posterior view with our spinous processes of our lumbars and transverse processes, okay? Now, our posterior longitudinal ligament is inside our vertebral canal. This green tape is our posterior longitudinal ligament. Can't really see it in there, but it goes all the way down. the green, okay? In there. The vertebra is divided into two components. This is our posterior view. So from the pedicles back is the posterior component, and from the pedicles forward is our anterior component. So basically the body of a vertebra is the anterior component. So this ligament, our posterior longitudinal ligament, it sits on the posterior aspect of the anterior component of our vertebrae. Next, we move on to the ligamentum flavum. Ligamentum flavum sits right opposite of our posterior longitudinal ligament. So this is our posterior longitudinal ligament. I left it sticking out. And we have our ligamentum flavum. This is our anterior view once more. And our ligamentum flavum is this orange right here. Goes all the way down. The ligamentum flavum is on the anterior aspect of the lamina, or the anterior aspect of the posterior component. So our posterior longitudinal ligament and ligamentum flavum are deep in here. Posterior, you can see the green a little bit in there, okay, green. And our ligamentum flavum, you can see a little bit of the orange right in there, okay, just so you guys can orient yourself. They sit inside the vertebral canal. Our next ligament connects all of our spinous processes on their tip right here, the posterior side. Okay, so these right here, this is our supraspinous ligament. The dark blue, supraspinous ligament. Then we have the pinks, also connecting the spinous process, but a little bit on the side of it. The pinks are the interspinous ligament. So they connect each spinous process to each other, interspinous ligament. These blue on the side, these are called intertransverse ligament. Both sides on the transverse processes of the vertebrae. Moving on to the ligaments of the hip joint. So we'll move here to the hip. We have three specific ligaments. Our first one is this blue. This blue right here goes from the ilium to the femur. So it is our iliofemoral ligament. Our next one is right here on the anterior side, this pink. This pink right here connects from the pubis to the femur. So it is our pubofemoral ligament. And lastly, we have a ligament on the back side of this joint. On the back over here, posterior side, connecting from the ischium to the femur, we have our ischiofemoral ligament in the orange right here, ischiofemoral ligament. Going back to this model here, this pink that surrounds the acetabulum, it'll stick out a little bit. This is our acetabular labrum. I will show on a different model also. Here I taped the acetabular labrum on the right pelvis, and this model we have a left pelvis and the femur attached. So I will show you what the labrum looks inside. So inside this model here, if we take away the femur, Pop this out right there. Okay, this part right in here, this is our acetabular labrum. That's what that looks like right in there. The femur head sits right inside. And here we have the ligaments that we went over. These ligaments here, looking at it anteriorly, from the pubic bone, the pubic, to the femur, these fibers right here would be our pubofemoral ligament. From the ilium to our femur, these fibers running this way, this would be our iliofemoral ligament. And lastly, on the back, from the ischium to the femur, these fibers running back here would be our ischiofemoral ligament. Going back to this model, we have the acetabular labrum. Right here, covering the acetabular notch, we have the transverse acetabular ligament. Okay, so on this model, we have here left pelvis, and we have a left femur. So, in between the femur and the pelvis, if we pull this femur out, you can see that blue ligament in here, okay? This ligament attaching from the fovea capitis to the acetabulum. That ligament is called ligamentum capitis. Right in here, ligamentum capitis. Now, this ligament surrounding the neck, the anatomical neck of the femur, this ligament is called zona orbicularis. This is basically a zone, okay? This is zona orbicularis, surrounds the neck of the femur.